Well, welcome back, everybody, and this is part 2 of my 2025 NFL season predictions. If you took a look at my AFC predictions, you'd have seen that basically my predictions were the same, well, almost the same as last year, but now let's get on over to the NFC side of things, and this should be a pretty interesting conference. So let's get on to the NFC predictions for 2025. Starting things off in the NFC East and taking the NFC East, I got the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles winning the NFC East. Now, I know the NFC East has not had a repeat champion since the Eagles did it in 03 and 04. But if there's a year to break that trend, I believe this is the year. Because Philly last year, offense was absolutely dynamic. Signing Saquon Barkley, who won Offensive Player of the Year, 2,000-yard season, to a $41 million contract, 36 of that guaranteed. He has a chance to earn an additional $15 million through incentives. And with that, Saquon becomes the first running back to earn at least $20 million a year. And I think it is well deserving of that. There was times when he was even in consideration for MVP talks, and I fully agree with it. Saquon is just the absolute engine to this Philly offense, and he deserves every single bit of it. But the only concern, though, is that when running backs came off of 2,000-yard rushing seasons, they dipped a little bit the next year, but I really don't think it's much to concern about with a player of Saquon Barkley's stature right there. Then, of course, you got Jalen Hurts. He had a modest season through the air last year, but we all know what he's capable on the ground, a.k.a. the tush push, which should not be banned from the league. So I think Philly here, they're going to make it more of like a pass split attack right there, considering their two superstars on offense. So you got the best running back in the game and the Super Bowl MVP going at it on offense. Then you got 4 straight years of double-digit rushing touchdowns for him. And, of course, behind that offensive line, it's by far and leaps and bounds a top 5 unit in the league. They do not allow a lot of sacks, protect the quarterback well, open up a lot of big holes for the run game. It's just built to succeed over in Philadelphia. You got A.J. Brown coming off a 1,000-yard season last year in just 13 games, so he continues to rack things up for the Eagles. Then, of course, you got Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert to wrap up the weaponry. And the defense, of course, was elite, arguably the best defense in the league, but they did lose some pieces, but I really don't think it's much to be concerned about with the Philadelphia Eagles. They did allow the second fewest points in the league, and they allowed the fewest yards as well. But hitting on draft picks, which I have a lot of confidence with in Philly's front office, they are a very smart drafting franchise. I think it's just been phenomenal, and the previous draft picks that they've had have really pounded as well. Mitchell, Cooper DeJean with the pick 6 in the Super Bowl, those were really big standouts. They did lose Isaiah Rodgers, but Andrew Makuba for safety coming in, I think that can be a nice push right there. Josh Sweat and Milton Williams are gone, but I think the Eagles are able to replenish with what they have as well. But yeah, I think re-signing Zach Bond to 3 years was much needed for them. Like, everyone was after him, and he was the most important part of the defense, and for him to come back with the Eagles, I think was huge. Nakobe Dean is back, and Jahad Campbell was drafted as well. A couple of trades. Kenny Pickett, they traded for DTR. I don't know about that one. And then C.J. Gardner-Johnson went down to Houston. They got Kenyon Green for that and a 5th rounder. So, really, this Eagle team, there's no reason to believe that they will not be back in the playoffs. Basically, the offense looks the same, but they do have a couple of downgrades on defense. But like I said, I don't think it's too much to be concerned about. In my book, this is a 13-4 team. I see them having the number 1 seed in the NFC this year. It's just that Super Bowl showed that they are truly just the best team in the league, and they could be a dynasty in the making if they hit all the right buttons. This is their 2nd Super Bowl title in the last 8 years, and I think what the front office has done has been nothing short of amazing with building up this Eagle team. Philadelphia takes the NFC East for the 2nd consecutive season. 2nd place, Washington Commanders. So Washington, great year last year, made the NFC Championship for the first time since 1991, and they did it on the tail ends of their Rookie of the Year quarterback, Jaden Daniels, who led a fantastic offense last year. He's got a lot of pass catchers to work with, and it's going to really up his pass attempts right there, because we know that Jaden Daniels is really good at using his legs when needed. So they did add to it as well, like getting Deebo Samuel from San Francisco for a 5th rounder. But the only question here is what happens with Terry McLaurin. Do they re-sign him? Does he stay? Or do they rip the Band-Aid off and they trade him? But we'll see right there. But yeah, I mean, Washington, they are just an air raid type of offense attack, and Jaden Daniels has a lot of expectations in his 2nd year. They will not be abandoning that run game, because that would really hinder Daniels' productivity and his style of play. So I think this is just going to be a really well-balanced offense. You know, you got Austin Eckler in the backfield, you got Brian Robinson Jr., and you got that O-line, which could use a little bit more patch-up work. I mean, 50 sacks is a really high total for that unit right there. But Tunsil in for Brandon Coleman and Josh Cornerly in for Andrew Wiley. I think those are big upgrades on the O-line right there. So Washington does come in with expectations on the offensive line. Not saying it's going to be the Hogs 2.0, but, you know, only time will tell. Then the defensive side of things, they did improve, but they still feel like that they are heading in the right direction. You got Quan Martin, who could come out for a breakout year. You got Jeremy Chin, who was out, but he was not really that good against the pass. I think Will Harris is going to be his replacement right there. But then the run defense, it got gassed a lot last year. And playing in a division that features Saquon Barkley twice a year, they need an answer for that. So Bobby Wagner coming off a 132 tackle year. I think that's going to boost a lot of confidence. You got Frankie Louvu, and they signed Javon Kinlaw for 3 years. Dietrich Wise Jr. coming in for a year. And, yeah, so 43 sacks on the pass rush, but they did lose Dante Fowler, who was their sack leader. So, yeah, I mean, Washington comes in with a lot of hype and a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. And overall, I take a look at this team, I see a lot of similarities with last year's team, especially on offense, especially now with getting Deebo Samuel in the mix. So, if Jaden Daniels can perform as advertised and give a nice sequel to his Rookie of the Year season, I see no reason for Washington to not make the playoffs. But I think the defense does have a little bit more work to, you know, improve, but I'm not really too concerned about that. This is going to be a competitive team, and I think they're going to be right there in the mix. 11-6 is my prediction for Washington this season. 3rd place, I am giving it to the Dallas Cowboys. So Brian Schottenheimer is now at head coach for the Cowboys as they moved on from Mike McCarthy. And, well, the biggest headline for the Cowboys, once again, what's it going to be for Dak Prescott? What's it going to look like, you know? How's Dak going to be? Look, Dak, is he a good quarterback? Sure, okay? But this dude is the furthest thing from elite. I don't care if he missed more than half the year last year, okay? Dak has shown time and time again that he is not an elite quarterback, and he is just not capable of performing under pressure. He is entering year 10 as the starting quarterback of this team, and the results have been average to above average at best. Okay, that's what it is with the Cowboys. And it showed, when the Cowboys, the offense, they did suffer, I mean, CeeDee Lamb is a really good receiver, and George Pickens is a great compliment for him. That's a big upgrade for Brandon Cooks, but we all know the attitude problem that George Pickens comes in. So Dallas, in my opinion, are taking a gamble right there. You got Tolbert coming off a career high year last year, and you got Cavante Turpin coming in, Jake Ferguson as well. Rico Dowdle coming off a 1,000-yard season. He is gone. And Javonte Williams filling in for him. That's a downgrade big time, in my opinion, right there. And then you got that offensive line, which is just very mid. Losing Zach Martin to retirement, that's going to hurt the O-line substantially. And Tyler Booker is going to be his replacement, who they drafted. I don't know exactly how well he's going to be able to replicate it, but only time is going to tell. So a lot of uncertainty with the Cowboys as far as the offense goes. Defensively, Matt Eberflus is going to be defensive coordinator this year for the Cowboys when he's not making boneheaded clock management decisions like he did on Thanksgiving last year. They were 31st in points per game last year on defense and 28th in yards allowed. And the run defense was especially awful. They got ran over by just about every opponent last year. Now, the pass rush was great. 52 sacks last year, which was third in the league, and they have a really high pressure rate. So that is a big, strength for the Cowboys defense right there. But Micah Parsons coming in with questions now. Is he going to leave with the Cowboys? Do they throw a lot of money at him and bring him back? I don't know, but they cannot lose Micah Parsons. They already lost DeMarcus Lawrence, who was, after he only played 4 games, sure, but DeMarcus Lawrence was huge on that Cowboys defense. Chauncey Golston is also gone, and all that for bringing in Dante Fowler, I think is a nice move because he had a great year last year, but I don't know. To me, they just cannot lose Micah Parsons. They went edge in the second round. They got Osa Odigizua, if I'm saying that name right. Mozzie Smith, Demervian Overshone. That they do have some talent as far as the defensive front goes. Eric Hendricks is gone, and Deron Bland really regressed from 2023, and Trayvon Diggs is really becoming a liability on that defense right there, and also losing Jordan Lewis. So Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson and Milk Hooker, they better step it up big time right there as well. So, I mean, overall, the Cowboys, it looks a lot similar to last year, but they need a lot of upside promise in order for them to achieve the best results possible, in my opinion. I think Dallas does improve as far as the record goes, but playoffs, I don't know about that. 9-8 is my prediction for the Dallas Cowboys. Last place, I am giving it to the New York Giants once again. The Giants are just terrible. Their offense last year was among one of the worst, and it's very easy to see why. They still don't have an answer at quarterback, despite them having Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson, and drafting Jackson Darts. They just do not have a true answer at quarterback. Now, I believe Jackson Darts will get some reps at some point this season. I feel like the Giants may be rolling with Russell Wilson to be the starter, and then at some point Darts comes in and Jameis Winston is going to be a third stringer, but that's the thing. I have no idea what the Giants are going to be doing at quarterback this year, and you need a quarterback in today's league, and it showed. Like I said, offense was among the worst. They were 31st or 30th in every major category. Malik Neighbors, he had a great rookie season last year, but really, when you look at the Giants' weaponry, it's just not all that great. And I know the O-line definitely isn't doing any favors. They gave up 48 sacks last year, and they didn't really change much on the offensive line. And I know Andrew Thomas had health problems last year, but his run blocking was okay when he was in. The defense, too, it was good at times, but the problem with the defense is that it just can't get off the field. It allows a lot of big plays. It allows a lot of explosive plays. And that's the thing. Like, the defense just keeps getting gassed out despite the fact that it has talent. 45 sacks on the defensive front is really good. You got Brian Burns having 8.5 sacks last year, and they drafted Abdul Carter in the first round, 3rd overall pick. But Dexter, you got Ojulari gone. I don't know how much that's going to affect the defense right there, but you got Kayvon Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence, so those are things the Giants really need to have high hopes with, because like I said, this offense is basically the same coming in this year, and the defense improved on paper. The offense needs like a really overachieving year, and I just don't see that with the Giants this year. I have the Giants going 4-13. This is just not a good team. It's going to be another lost season once again for the Giants. Going on now to the NFC North, and winning the North for the 3rd consecutive season, I have the Detroit Lions. The Lions are possibly the most complete team in the NFL, and it is not hard to see why. I mean, this is a team that won 15 games last year, despite them having so many injuries. But the thing with the Lions is that the thing everybody's been talking about. They lost Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator, and John Morton is now their offensive coordinator. So Detroit, it's going to be a really big year for them as far as the offensive play calling goes. And that schedule is tough as well. When you win the division, you're going to naturally have a tough schedule the next year. You got 3 games on Thursday, which include Thanksgiving and Christmas right off the bat right there. So Detroit, they are going to be heavily tested a lot this year. Offense, though, most points scored in the league, and they had the 2nd most yards per game. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown with a 1,200-plus yard season and double-digit touchdowns. You had Jahmyr Gibbs, 1,400 yards on the ground, and he had the most rushing touchdowns. He also had 500 yards receiving. Montgomery is a really good complement to him. He had 12 touchdowns last year. Jameson Williams was a 1,000-yard receiver, and then you got Sam Laporta. That offensive line is respectable, but I feel like it could improve a little bit. And they did. They changed its center, and Kevin Zeitler is gone from right guard, and Tate Ratledge, who they took in the 2nd round, they are high on him. So yeah, I mean, Detroit, offensively, it's a well-oiled machine, and it's definitely going to be among one of the best again this year. Defensively, they held teams to the 7th fewest points, but they could play a little bit better on the run defense. 37 sacks is really good, but it, like I said, could improve a little bit more. I think most of that had to do with Aiden Hutchinson missing a lot of last year, so Aiden Hutchinson needs to be healthy this year, and when he is healthy, he is about as great of a pass rusher as you can get in the league. The first pick that they went with was defensive tackle for run stopping right there. Alex Alonzoni is coming back as well. Jack Campbell, 131 tackle last year. And, of course, in free agency, they did sign linebackers to help out with the run defense, though, like Derek Barnes, but he is a bit of an injury casualty. Marcus Davenport coming in with defensive end. DJ Reed, they signed at corner. Avonte Maddox coming in at corner. And, so Detroit, defensively, they are looking a bit more for depth, and they are looking a lot more from the guys that have proven that they are core contributors and regular starters on the defense. Now, they did cut Zadarius Smith, but I think Detroit does have enough ground to make up with that. Overall, with the Lions, it's going to be all about the OCs, like I said, how they can stack up against a tough schedule. It's going to be more of the same offensively for them, and they do have the same tools on both ends of the ball, minus an offensive line loss, but no huge losses on the secondary. So I expect a very similar season from the Lions last year. I do have them winning a few less games, but I think a 13-4 season for Detroit is nothing to complain about if you're a Lions fan. So yeah, Detroit, they just continue to run away with this division. Second place, I am going to go with the Green Bay Packers. The Packers last year made the playoffs. They lost in the wild card to the Philadelphia Eagles, but they are coming in with a lot more hope this year. Offense did fine last year, but the run game needs to do a little bit better. Josh Jacobs had a very good year, 1,300 plus yards on the ground, 15 touchdown passes, 15 rushing touchdowns, I'm sorry, but it can't all be him because, you got Jordan Love at quarterback. He's coming in with a lot more expectations now, and especially with drafting Matthew Golden. Savion Williams they drafted as well. Romeo Doubs. Christian Watson's back as well. Jaden Reed is with the team. And then, of course, you got the offensive line. They did amazing last year, allowing the fewest sacks, and they had no big changes on that O-line except for drafting Anthony Belton, who can be switched on the offensive line. So, Green Bay offensively, that alone should make them a contender in the playoffs, and it's very easy to see why. Defensively, I think Green Bay is very underrated. They were 6th in points per game last year, and they do not allow a lot of yards. This is not a defense that's going to be gashed easily, and this is a defense that's going to limit you. 45 sacks is a really good count, and they did it without much blitzing either, so this is a team that's also going to punch you in the mouth as well if you're not careful. Rush defense, like I said, very limiting. Xavier McKinney comeback, I think that's good. He had 8 interceptions. They did lose Jair Alexander. He's with Baltimore now, but that was a necessary loss, in my opinion. They did not want his injuries to keep piling up, so I think that was a necessary loss right there. Kayshawn Nixon, he's a really good bright spot for him. They brought in Isaiah McDuffie, and Nate Hobbs is coming in as well. So, yeah, Green Bay, they've made the playoffs the last 2 years, and this year, does the youth evolve, and do they gain more experience, possibly overtake the Lions for the North, or do they regress and show that it was just beginner's luck, or they take a massive step back? Who knows? But me personally, I tend to be more optimistic with these sort of things. And of course, you ask if the weapons are enough to help out Jordan Love. I think Green Bay has more than enough firepower to work with as far as their rookie receivers go, and their returnees come back to help out that strong O-line as well, and upgrading on the defense. But I don't know if I'm ready to call them better than Detroit just yet. This is a 10-7 team, in my opinion. They will be back in the playoffs once again. But overall, I just don't know if Jordan Love is that much clutch as people say he is because of the franchise that he plays for. He's by no means a bad quarterback, but sometimes he just tends to have boneheaded moments, and I think if he's able to overcome that, Green Bay is as dangerous as they come. But this is definitely a playoff team, in my opinion. Third place, the Chicago Bears. This is my surprise team of the year this year, the Chicago Bears. Biggest headline, Ben Johnson, imported from Detroit. He is now the head coach of the Chicago Bears. I thought that was a very good hire for Chicago. This is an offensive mastermind right here. This is a guy who really knows how to make offense work. He was very productive under Dan Campbell, and he has a really good young nucleus to work with here. Now, last year, the offense was bad, but like I said, you bring in an offensive-minded head coach in Ben Johnson, I think he can definitely make this group work. Matt Eberflus is a defensive-minded coach. This is an offensive-driven league now, and I think Ben Johnson was a home run hire. Caleb Williams, he had a nice rookie season last year, and I think with working with a new guy like that at head coach, I think he can overcome some sophomore slumps. Really, it all comes to maximizing the offense that Chicago has, considering it was at the bottom last year. They got the run game with DeAndre Swift. DJ Moore, solid season last year. Keenan Allen is gone, but drafting Luther Burden for replacement, Chicago is really high on that. You got Rome Odunes entering his second year. I know, I'm butchering some of these last names. I know I'm not great with names, but you know who I'm talking about. But anyway, Olamide Zacchaeus they added. Cole Kmet is there. And then Chicago was really aggressive in free agency and trades this year as well. Jonah Jackson, they traded for a 6th rounder, and they traded for Joe Tooney for next year's 4th rounder. Adding Durham Smythe at tight end for a 1-year deal, and getting Drew Dahlman at center for 3 years. Drafting Colston Loveland at tight end, and I think you're looking at a revamped Chicago O-line right there that allowed a ton of sacks. 68 sacks allowed last year. So you're going to have a lot of replacements on that offensive line. And Caleb Williams is sack prone. He does tend to hold on to the ball a little bit. But it comes down to those two things. If Caleb Williams is able to break those rookie jitters and able to develop into a nice sophomore, and if the O-line is able to give him more breathing room. 68 sacks, that is just disgusting to think about. Defensively, the Bears have a respectable defense, but they just can't keep giving up big yard plays and splash plays. I'm looking at you, Tyreek Stevenson. But anyway, the pass rush is pretty mid, and they don't blitz a ton. But it's by no means bad. I just think it needs patch-up work. But, you get Montez Sweat, who gets double-teamed a lot. But getting Deo Odiyingbo, some of these names, man. But anyway, getting him for 3 years, $48 million, 32 of that is guaranteed. Grady Jarrett's coming in as well. You got Shamar Turner, who was drafted defensive tackle, but they did lose DeMarcus Walker. Pass defense for Chicago, like I said, Stevenson, when he's not taunting the crowd and allowing a game-losing Hail Mary, he needs to learn better from that. Jaquan Brisker, Kevin Byard coming in, he's a nice, solid vet. So yeah, overall, Chicago, they really are taking this seriously about building around Caleb Williams and working to the best of his ability. They're at least trying right here, and I respect the effort for that. The offense, they have another year under their belt as a collective group right there. The front got better, and they have the ability to be an elite secondary. So all these things add up for the Bears, especially considering the division they play in. I like the direction that the Chicago Bears are heading in. And I think for the first time in a long time, I'm actually going to ride the hype with them. 9-8, my prediction for the Chicago Bears. I like where the Bears are headed. I think this is going to be a competitive team this year. Last place in the toughest division in football are the Minnesota Vikings. I know, they won 14 games last year, and they had an incredible season considering the offseason they had going into last year. But hear me out. Is it sustainable to have a winning way with close games? No, it's not. Now, don't get me wrong. You win games as best as you can and as much as you can, okay? You win by any means necessary. But 9 of their 14 wins were by 8 or less. They need to find ways to close out games. Offense was top 10 last year, and Sam Darnold had a nice Cinderella story, but he's gone now. So they're rolling with J.J. McCarthy, who was hurt all of last year. And I think a nice J.J. to J.J. connection, Justin Jefferson that's going to be a really nice tandem right there. Then, of course, Jordan Addison is a great compliment, but guess what? He's going to miss the first 3 games of the year because of an off-field incident. You got Naylor, who's a deep threat. You got TJ Hawkinson, only 10 games last year. He needs to stay healthy. On the ground, you got Aaron Jones, who's a 1,000-yard rusher last year. He got 2 more years thrown at him. You got Byron Murphy Jr. coming in for 3 more years, coming off a great year last year. I think he really deserved that. Minnesota offensive line-wise, 49 sacks taken. That is not good. So Donovan Jackson coming in the draft for Blake Brandel, I think is really good. Ed Ingram, I don't know how his loss is going to impact the O-line, but overall, Minnesota offensively has talent and excitement to build off on, but it's going to be determined if they can replicate what they did last year with J.J. McCarthy instead of Sam Darnold, who did not play last year. So it's going to be interesting to see. But, you got Kevin O'Connell, head coach. He won Coach of the Year last year. So let's see just how good Kevin O'Connell can really be. As far as defense goes, this is a defense that is very strong, and I expect them to return to form like last year. They were 5th in points allowed. The secondary is elite as well. They had 49 sacks last year. They're a very blitz-happy team. Run defense is real stingy. You lose Stephon Gilmore and you bring him, and you lose Cam Bynum as well. I think Mekhi Blackman's going to get more time playing, and Isaiah Rodgers coming in as well. You got Harrison Smith coming in for 1 more year, the ageless wonder. Jonathan Allen coming in at defensive tackle, who got 3 years at him. You got Eric Wilson coming in, and of course you got Hargrave coming in, who was injury prone, but he is productive when he is healthy on the field. Got John Allen coming in, John Grenard having 12 sacks, and Andrew Van Ginkel having 11.5 of those last year. Adding Jordan Mason to your ground game on the offense for a late rounder last year. And then you got Blake Cashman with back-to-back 100-tackle seasons, and you got Brian Flores' defense. Overall, I see Minnesota being a pretty defensive team last year, but let's see what the offense does with J.J. McCarthy, who was supposed to be their quarterback last year, but now he is expected to be the starter, and the defense still remains strong with a couple of downgrades. But the thing that makes me say Minnesota is going to finish last is because they win those close games, they now have to deal with a tough schedule, and I think I just like Chicago's upside a bit more. The Bears added while Minnesota lost, but I still think that Minnesota, despite finishing last, they finished 9-8. I still think they finished with a winning record, but I'm leaning more towards Chicago's upside here and the fact that they built while Minnesota had some losses. So we're definitely going to see here. Moving on now to the NFC South. And winning this division once again, I got Tampa Bay winning it for the 5th year in a row. Baker Mayfield, low-key MVP candidate. 41 touchdown passes last year, 2nd most in the league. And he had the 3rd most passing yards, and that offense is lethal. They are a top 5 offense, in my opinion. You got Mike Evans, you got Chris Godwin, who needs to stay healthy for the whole year, but he is a great complement on that offense as well. Jalen McMillan developing nicely. You got Emeka Egbuka, drafted 19th overall. They just have so many passing options that they can use at their disposal. Their offensive line is mid, but Baker carries some of the blame for his play extending, so, that's just the type of guy that Baker Mayfield is. He does get sacked a lot, but it doesn't help that he is behind a subpar offensive line as well. But overall, this is just a balanced offensive game with a rush attack that's going to get a lot of carries in. And Baker can take off when he's needed as well. You got Bucky Irving having over 1,100 yards on the ground last year. And the defense is mid, and they are ranked middle of the pack in major categories. But that pass defense did get hurt a lot. But I feel like if it can stay healthy, it can be better. You get Ben Morrison in the 2nd round. You get Jacob Parrish in the 3rd round of the secondary. But one thing about Tampa's defense is that they are great up front. They had 46 sacks last year, and they have a lot of high pressure. Kalasia Kancey, he's coming in. You got Vita Vea returning. Logan Hall, Hassan Reddick coming in. He only played 10 games last year, but I feel like he can be very productive when he sees the field a lot. You got Yaya Diaby, you got Anthony Nelson, and you got Levante David, who is just a straight-up tackle machine. But the rush D is top 10. They do not allow a lot of yards on the ground. But overall, this as a collective group, not one guy gets the majority of the sacks, but they're more so spread out. So overall, I think this is just a balanced team, and the offense is definitely going to win them games. Just not a whole lot of changes to the defense, but on paper, I think it should still be better. I just think Tampa is the best team in this division. I think they go 10-7 this year, wrap it up for the 5th consecutive season. Second place, the Atlanta Falcons. So they are rolling with Michael Penix, and he showed a lot of flashes and potential, and Atlanta, they feel like they are ready to make him the full-time starter. So in case he goes down, they got Kirk Cousins, who's an experienced veteran, to back him up. So Atlanta, they are hopeful for that. They have some really big expectations, especially Drake London, 1,200-yard season last year. Darnell Mooney almost had a 1,000-yard season last year. Ray McLeod had a career year last year. They got Kyle Pitts coming back on the ground. You got Bijan Robinson for 1,456 yards. Alizier, he's a really steady attacker for the ground attack. And the O-line basically remains the same, and they allowed very few sacks. So that O-line is gonna definitely keep that offensive line intact for a lot of this season. So to me, Michael Penix is set up to succeed, but they need to capitalize up on drives, and I think that's the one thing that held Atlanta back offensively last year. Defense faltered a lot. The secondary gave up the highest completion rate. They had only 31 sacks last year, and they do not pressure a lot. They do have some playmakers, though. Jesse Bates is elite, but they did let Justin Simmons walk for drafting Xavier Watts. They drafted Jalen Walker 15th overall, and they drafted James Pierce at edge 26th overall for their linebackers and their pressure. Matthew Judon is gone for Leonard Floyd. I think that's a big upgrade right there. Grady Jarrett is gone for Morgan Fox. I think that can help out. Can Troy Anderson stay healthy? I don't know, but I think he is good for that defense if he is able to stay healthy. But overall, you know, adding in Mike Hughes, I think that can help out as well. And Mike Ford Jr. on a one-year deal. So, yeah, I mean, overall, Atlanta, if they can carry the momentum over from last year to this year, they hold on to a strong start, they can have something, and they can potentially make their way into the playoffs. I just don't know if the defense is trustworthy enough despite adding to it. I have Atlanta going 9-8, and I have them finishing over 500. I don't know about the playoffs, though, but we'll see about that. Third place are the Carolina Panthers. So Panther fans come in with optimism this year with Bryce Young, and they do have some room for growth. Bryce Young, I feel like him being benched last year woke him up, and he was better stat-wise from his rookie season. So I think that is solely going to lie on how well Bryce Young can do, because the offense was just really bad last year. But, yeah, taking Tet McMillan 8th overall, I think that's going to help him out. Adam Thielen is good when he's healthy, and they have a trio of sophomores in Xavier Legette, Jalen Cooker, and Jatavion Sanders. Chuba Hubbard on the ground is really good, and then the O-line was pretty middle of the pack, and they feel like with that offensive line, they can really optimize their run game right there. They added Rico Dowdle coming off of a nice season with the Cowboys last year. So, yeah, Carolina's offense is a work in progress, but they're trying to hold their heads up high a little bit with it. But defensively, Carolina, statistically, the worst defense in the league last year. They gave up the most points, and they were bottom 2 in most other categories, especially in pass rush, rush defense, and pass defense. The only real bright spot was Derek Brown, but he only played 1 game last year. Bobby Brown is an upgrade, and I think Wharton as well. Patrick Jones is going to be nice to boost up the pass rush. You got Nick Scorton taken in the second round for edge. You got J.C. Horn, and of course you got Michael Jackson. Not that one, but MJ moonwalking on receiver. So, yeah, there you go with the pass defense right there. Overall, with the Panthers, they did have a lot of numerous changes as far as the defense goes. I just don't see much of a difference, you know. I just think the defense they got with the additions they had, and with the offense that is still just looking for that breakout year, I don't know if it's enough to give a ton of confidence with Carolina. I just think it's a working year. This is still just an underdeveloped team. 6-11 is my opinion for Carolina. And then last place, no doubt about it, are the New Orleans Saints. The Saints, in my opinion, are going to be your first overall pick for 2026. Kellen Moore is now head coach of the team, and how does the offense look under him? They played a lot of backups last year. Derek Carr retired, and they are asking themselves, does Spencer Rattler or Tyler Show start? So, big question marks down in New Orleans. Chris Olave is really good, but he missed more than half the season. And then Rashid Shaheed with only 6 games. Taysom Hill is still there, but what can he do? Alvin Kamara continues to be wasted. You got Jawan Johnson, you got Foster Moreau as well. And that O-line got injured a lot, and it gets pressured a ton as well. Taking Kelvin Banks 9th overall might help out a lot, but they have a low run attack because they were trailing in a lot of the games last year, so that's going to lead to a very bad ground game, which is going to really hinder Kamara's career, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on whoever they decide to start at quarterback. You know, last year they got off to a very big early explosion with points, but then it just really tapered down and crashed in the worst way possible, culminating in a 34-0 loss to Green Bay. Defensively, they are below average defensively, but that run defense got beat badly. 39 sacks, not great, but they're not blitz heavy either. And the secondary, they did have a good season, but that's, you know, you have to attack the middle with the Saints, and I think a lot of teams are just going to do that this year. Paulson Adebo is gone, only having played 7 games, and they added Isaac Yodium. Kool-Aid McKinstry and Alontae Taylor they're high with as well. Will Harris is gone, and he's being replaced by Justin Reed. And then you got Cam Jordan. Just the sun is winding down on his career. Bringing Chase Young back for 3 years, I think is going to be nice. But, like, overall, the Saints, they need a lot of upside production with huge holes on both sides of the ball. And this all adds up to the Saints being the worst team in the league. I just am not a believer in the Saints this year. Worst record in the league goes to New Orleans Saints, in my opinion, 2-15. I am only confident, looking at their schedule too, that they can only win 2 games. The Saints are just going to be terrible this year, bottom line. And then wrapping it up, we have the NFC West. And taking this division for the second year in a row, I have the Rams taking the West for the second year. The Rams, they're coming in with a lot of youth this year, and they come in with a lot of promise. You know, you got Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. They missed a lot of time last year, which hurt the offense, so don't let those offensive stats fool you. But here's what they did. Cooper Kupp is gone, and they brought in Devontae Adams. That is a big upgrade, in my opinion. Demarcus Robinson is gone, so Tutu Atwell's going to get a lot more reps. Can Tyler Higbee stay healthy? They drafted Terrence Ferguson in the second round. And like I said, Puka Nacua, when he's on the field, he is really becoming one of his own, you know? The O-line performed really well, but they have a lot of health issues as well. Kyron Williams, all things considered with that, he had a solid year. But this is a Rams offense that's really good, but they're not explosive per se. They're more so eating up the clock and efficiency rather than just flashy plays, you know. But yeah, this Rams offense, I think, is going to be a lot better than what people think. Defensively, one thing else I got to mention, I think the Cooper Kupp thing was really good because while he was good, he just tapered down as his career went on and he started to become injury prone. And the Rams, they plan to move on from him if no trade occurred by March 12th. And so nothing happened, and they released him on that date, and that saved them some money. So they used that to their advantage right there, and bringing in Devontae Adams, I think, just shows what you need to know about the Rams front office. Defensively, LA was kind of mid as well. The pass defense, they got beat a lot, and the rush defense is still a big problem as well, especially when you look at some of the opponents they have with strong running games. So they really need to step things up on the rush defense. That's their biggest weakness, in my opinion. They don't pressure a ton either, but they are hopeful that it's going in the right direction. You had Fisk having a nice season. You have Kobe Turner coming in. You got Bobby Brown coming back. Poona Ford. And then Jared Verse, a lot of promise from him. He won Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. So Jared Verse, they are very high on that kid, rightfully so. And Quentin Lake coming off of a nice 111 tackle season. So, like I said, offensively, the Rams, they should have no problem scoring and racking up yards. But defensively, they're full of capables and some people that are just unproven. But overall, I think this Rams team is good enough to take the NFC West crown once again. I got them going 11-6. Second place, the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Arizona was a bit of a funky team last year because there were times when Arizona looked like that they could be one of the best offensive teams in the league last year, and they were respectable offensively. Kyler Murray, this is, I think, year 7 of Kyler Murray, and Kyler isn't bad by any means, but I just don't think that he's as great as people make him out to be. Like I said, not bad, but not great. You know, he's a good starter. He's a good quality starter. Just not great. You know, he ran more than he passed last year, but I think that complements Arizona's offense a bit. Like, if Kyler can start being more decisive with the ball, I think that really can be, I think that can really elevate Arizona's offense more. But, like I said, year 7, and, well, I don't know if Kyler's that type of guy. But, you know, you got James Conner coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and he's also a threat as a pass catcher as well. You had Trey McBride over 1,100 yards, who had 111 catches. And then Marvin Jr., he had a really nice rookie season last year, and the team is hopeful that he can really elevate it up to his full potential for, well, at least start that up for this year. Michael Wilson's a nice deep ball threat, and that O-line did very well. So it's not like Kyler doesn't have very limited time to throw. He has a very nice offensive line with him. The defense did okay, but they have a lot of room for improvement as well. Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker, they are just really big tackle guys. Garrett Williams and Sean Murphy-Bunting in the secondary. Will Johnson at corner, he does have injury concerns though, and they took him. But the pass rush could really use more consistency. They had 41 sacks last year, which is good, but they're just a little inconsistent with the pass rush. Josh Sweat coming off a really big showing in Super Bowl 59. He was a very huge contributor in that game, and getting him from the Philadelphia Eagles for 4 years, that's a really big move right there for Arizona. And two of their best rushers missed a lot of time last year. Drafting Walter Nolan in the first round, I think that can help him out. And then, of course, you got Dante Stills and Calais Campbell. Dalvin Thompson coming in for 2 years as well. So, in conclusion, I think this is going to be more of the same offensively for Arizona because they don't have any huge secondary changes, but most of the changes going to come up front with upgrades. And I think Arizona has some upside to them, but I don't know if I'm ready to say that they are going to be a playoff team just yet. 9-8, my prediction for Arizona. Third place, San Francisco. Now, in the past, I've been very lenient with the 49ers because they've had injury concerns and a lot of people wrote them off, but last year in the Super Bowl hangover, they went 6-11. I know they were injured last year, but they also blew a lot of games with those injuries that they were winning and they could have won as well and lost. I'm not going to be so nice to them this time. CMC and Brandon Ayuk, they only played 11 games combined last year, and 8 of their starters from last year are gone. So I don't know if San Francisco can overcome that now. I mean, the offense did what it could, but in my opinion, Brock Purdy is not clutch. He's good, but he's not clutch. He showed that several times last year where it was on him to get San Francisco into a winning position when they had blown the game, and he just wasn't able to get it done. When you're the quarterback like that and all eyes are on you, you need to find a way to get it done, and Brock Purdy just wasn't doing it. Jordan Mason, they traded, and Isaac Guerrero is going to see a lot more time now. Jawan Jennings had a career year last year, and Demarcus Robinson for Deebo Samuel. I don't know about that one, but only time's going to tell. Then you got Ricky Pearsall. He had a really nice rookie season last year, and of course they got George Kittle. O-line did okay. Nothing great, but nothing terrible either. But the defense was a big concern. San Francisco's defense was the peak of it for the past couple of years of that team, for the past couple of years, but last year it regressed big time in just about everything. Pass rush, pass defense, rush defense, blitzing, pressure rate, turnovers, just about everything imaginable went wrong defensively last year for San Francisco. But getting Robert Saleh back as defensive coordinator could help. But San Francisco, overall, just lost a lot. Javon Hargrave, sure, he was injury-prone, but losing him might hurt a bit. They lost Leonard Floyd. That's going to be tough to replicate because he's coming off of an 11-sack season. Malik Collins is gone. Drafting Mykel Williams at edge, and then Alfred Collins, drafting him at 43rd overall at defensive tackle. Gross Votos could be a rotational guy. So yeah, I mean, also the huge ones, Ufunga and Chardavius Ward are gone as well. So San Francisco, they lost a lot on their defense, but thankfully they still have Fred Warner, who's elite. But he's going to be working with a lot of new guys. So, San Francisco, I don't know if they are going to be able to overcome that. You know, injuries happen. It's part of the game. But I'm not going to be so nice with the 49ers this time. San Francisco, I think, finishes 7-10. I think they win maybe one more game than they did last year. But overall, I don't like the offseason they had. I think they're taking a turn for the worst here. And I think just the new guys and the pieces they lost to their team It's just not going to be enough to overcome it. 7-10 is my prediction for San Francisco. Last place are the Seattle Seahawks. Now, Seattle, it looked like they were just going to have a full-on fire sale when the offseason started, but I wouldn't really call it a huge fire sale. They lost a lot, don't get me wrong. I think they lost the most out of anyone in this division, but it's not like they are completely rebuilding. You know, they have a new head coach, Clint Kubiak, a head coach. Sam Darnold is now a quarterback for Geno Smith. But you take a look at just you take a look at some of the things right here. The offense last year, very below average, and Sam Darnold is sack prone, and he's now behind an offensive line that gave up 54 sacks. Darnold holds on to the ball a lot. It's his biggest weakness, and with this offensive line giving up 54 sacks, it's going to be tough for Sam Darnold. I don't know if he's going to have that Cinderella season that he did with the Vikings. I don't know if he can work well with Clint Kubiak. Gray Zubel drafted in the first round. They got Jackson Smith-Njigba at wide receiver 1, and they added Cooper Kupp. But like I said, the releases: Draymond Jones, Rayshawn Jenkins, Roy Herbertson Harris, George Fant, Tyler Lockett. They saved over $44 million in that with Tyler Lockett, but still, he was really big with Seattle for quite some time. You know, Elijah Arroyo, they drafted a tight end. They still got Kenneth Walker. But the defense is still pretty solid. It's a borderline top 10 defense, in my opinion, and they got a good red zone defense as well. The pass rush is pretty solid, but it could be better. 45 sacks is good, but they also don't blitz a lot either. Devin Witherspoon is coming in. Reek Woolen is coming in. Josh Jobe, Julian Love. Kobe Bryant, not the basketball player, obviously, but Kobe Bryant, they're really high on him. But yeah, I mean, adding Leonard Williams might help out with the pass rush as well. DeMarcus Lawrence is going to be big, and Byron Murphy they're pleased with as well. But yeah, I mean, it's just an uncertain offense, and the defense needs to get off the field a lot more if that offense is going to keep them in games. You need offense to win in Seattle. Just a really underwhelming offense. So for that reason, I do think Seattle finishes in last, but I also have them finishing 7-10. I just have San Francisco with a slightly better conference record than them. But yeah, I think Seattle finishes in last. And now, moving on to my NFC playoff picture. So here's what my playoff picture looks like. First round bye, as the NFC playoffs goes through Philadelphia, in my opinion. Detroit, the 2nd seed. LA takes the 3rd seed, and Tampa gets the 4th. My wildcards, I am going with Washington as the first wildcard again. Green Bay takes the 2nd wildcard. And my surprise team this year, the Chicago Bears. I think they get the final wildcard spot and make the playoffs for the first time in 5 years. 3 NFC teams that missed the playoffs this year. My first team to miss the playoffs are the 49ers. I just talked about them. And I think just with the losses San Francisco had and their health concerns, Brock Purdy just showing that he's really just not a clutch quarterback, and just a mix of youth and inexperience, I just think it's going to cost San Francisco a playoff spot again. Second team to miss the playoffs are the Minnesota Vikings. Not saying it's impossible for Minnesota to finish 3rd and take that wildcard spot instead of Chicago, but I don't know. I think they're pretty confident with J.J. McCarthy, who hasn't played a single down in the NFL yet, and how confident they are with him being the starter, and maybe that Sam Darnold losing him can really come back and haunt them, but we'll see. Minnesota definitely has the talent to make the playoffs, but they're kind of like the Dolphins of the AFC a bit to me, whereas like I know they can be a playoff team, but I just don't think they will be. And then my last team to miss the playoffs are the Dallas Cowboys. I am just not sold with the Cowboys. I think it's going to be the same thing with them as usual for them. Coaching's going to cost them. Their defense, it is strong, but I just think it's one-dimensional. And the offense, to me, just needs a lot of patch-up work to do, and they're relying on they play in a tougher division now, so a lot of things need to go right with the Dallas Cowboys to make it back to the playoffs. And so there you have it. Those are my NFC playoff predictions, my NFC season predictions, and my 2025 season predictions. Thank you for tuning in, and let's get back to football.